Muse are an English rock band from Devon. They started as a high school band as Gothic Plague. They were renamed Rocket Baby Dolls in 1994. They won a local battle of the bands, quit their jobs, and changed the name to Muse because it looked better on posters. They released their first album in 1999, and they've released 8 more since then. They've sold huge numbers worldwide and are consistently praised for their artistry. Hi, my name's Dan, and this is a review of the album Absolution by Muse, which was released in 2003 and was their third studio album. It's the first Muse album that has appeared on this list of the 3,000 greatest albums of all time. I have a copy of this album, but I'm not actually particularly familiar with it because I haven't played it particularly often. So this has been by other people generally described as alt rock or alternative rock or prog rock. I'm going to come back to the prog rock thing. I'm going to claim that, well, I think it's difficult because I think they're Muse, and I think Muse kind of sit in a little space on their own that is somewhere in the I don't know about cracks, but somewhere between alternative rock and prog rock, I would say. They have a very nicely distinctive sound. Now, I believe that this is the album where they really started doing that. I don't know their stuff well enough to be able to say whether that's actually true or not. It's definitely rock of some kind. It's got a large rocking feel to it. It's got orchestral feel at times. Sometimes it slips into kind of almost classical. There's some quieter bits that are almost classical as well. But so it's got this kind of grandness to it. The sound is saturated quite a lot of the time. There's a lot of sound filling the sound space and often pushing it to the extent that it's deliberately starting to become a little bit distorted. And I'll come back to his voice, but he does that with his voice to good effect, pushing it a bit louder and getting that distortion coming through. It's kind of based on, well, a lot of it is based on some strong rolling kind of grooves. So I don't have a better musical term for this other than the kind of groove that feels like it just wants to roll on and keep going on forever. I don't particularly know how to create that kind of groove, but it's the sort of thing that space rock kind of introduced in a big way. Um, and sometimes some of the grooves are really fast and frantic, but not always. Sometimes it's a bit more kind of stripped back. The second track certainly starts more stripped back, but the often very, very full. And they're not afraid of using the dynamic range. In fact, I at one point turned it up because I thought it was being too quiet, and then realised that it was just them being quiet at the start of a track, and it got really quite loud towards the end. We've got generally drums, guitars, and bass. There's only 3 of them. It's an amazing sound. I wonder how on earth they produce anything near this big live. There's a lots of behind the kind of drums, guitar, and bass, and sometimes there's piano, particularly keyboard. There's lots of filling in of sound. Sometimes it's done in such a way. It's going to reference the wall of sound. I can't remember the name of the guy now off the top of my head. That's going to bug me. It's so almost done in a way that you couldn't really kind of pick out what it is, but it's there as filling. It's like the background flavouring in a curry that you couldn't pick out all the cardamom and that etc. But it's all there, filling it in. And then there are bits that are even more filled in because you've got strings or patty choral vocals going on there. So the whole feel is produced and atmospheric, but also quite emotive with it and just expansive. It's got this huge feel to it. The chord sequences I want to mention, they're more interesting than normal, and I actually found that there were certain points in the way they shifted chord that I thought, oh, that's so Divine Comedy. which is an unusual and slightly, I'm not even sure what the right word is for it, slightly more sophisticated approach to the changing of chords, maybe. Right, let's talk about the vocals. Matt Bellamy. So he's got what I call a sing-through voice, and this is my term. I've just not invented it, but I've invented it, which is so most people in punk rock, as they sing, they dot the sounds of the words and then have little gaps between them. Am I going to? No, I can't think of anything. Mary has a little lamb. I'm exaggerating that slightly. Matt Bellamy, like some of the singers, sings through all the notes and the consonants, so the syllables. So you don't have those little gaps between. Excuse me, Mary has a little lamb. So I was singing it slightly slower to emphasise that. And so he's almost constantly singing. Now this reminds me strongly of some other people. Tom York of Radiohead does this now. Apparently, this album has been compared to Radiohead. I think that maybe it's because at that point Radiohead were better known than Muse, and there was this similarity in voice. I don't think there's a huge similarity in the rest of the sound, so I wouldn't say that they're a sound alike to Radiohead. I wondered about, so does it remind me of, so back to the sing through thing. Jeff Buckley can be a bit like that at times, and has kind of got a bit of the feel of wildness. And then I realised who really reminds me of is Rufus Wainwright, who's got a very sing through kind of voice like this. So Matt Bellamy can really blast. And he can be very emotive with his voice. So again, in contrast to Tom York, who often sounds like he's quite mumbly, he's definitely kind of coming through. He's often had this thought. I did a Tom York album not long ago, and I had this thought: when does he breathe? Where does he actually put it in? Well, with Matt Bellamy, you know when he breathes because you can hear it. Partly because often he's actually breathing in such a way that is voiced as he breathes in. So like that, a little bit of his the 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 voicing. So the difference between a and a d is the voicing part of it comes in it. Um, it can feel that it's quite kind of slightly out of control because he does that, but it's emotive. It's a good voice. I like it. He's got a good range, and it sounds really good. Good. Let's say that word again. Um, so the songs are about big themes about apocalypse stuff. I'm not going to dive deeper than that, partly because I don't really feel like I know strongly. I've spent so much time just listening to the sound and enjoying it. Overall, I can see why prog is being used for Muse at times. It has this kind of grandness and this ambition and maybe bits of the complexity. I wouldn't say it is what modern prog is, which is something else. It has become a kind of fixed thing. But I do know that maybe you kind of call it crossover prog. I do know that there's a lot of prog fans like Muse, and I think there are good reasons for this because I'm one of them and I like it, and it kind of tickles some of the same things that we're looking for, which is intelligence, but also in this case emotive, very expressive, grand, and ambitious. So it's a strong album. It's gutsy and ballsy without being aggressive. It's confident and it's grand. And I enjoyed listening to it. I enjoyed it quite a lot. So I know a secret, though, to come, which is that there are better Muse albums on this list coming up later on. Anyway, that was what I think of this album. I'd love to know what you think. So please really let me know, by leaving me a comment. And that's it from me for now.